Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A coroner has recommended sweeping changes to Tasmania's mental health system. Joseph Aaron Latimer sought help at the Royal Hobart Hospital in 2016. After spending almost an hour in the emergency department, he attempted to take his own life and tragically died days later. And a warning, some viewers may find this story distressing.
Inside this hospital almost 5 years ago, Joseph Aaron Latimer slipped through the cracks of Tasmania's health system. Handing down findings into his death today, Coroner Olivia McTaggart said the 37-year-old struggled with his mental health as well as drug and alcohol abuse. In July 2016, he called 000, saying he was at high risk of self-harm. He voluntarily walked into the Royal Hobart Hospital emergency department, where he was triaged by a nurse as needing urgent attention. After spending 42 minutes in the ED, he attempted to take his life in the waiting room toilets. He was resuscitated but taken off life support days later. In her findings, the coroner said, "It is particularly clear Mr Latimer wished to prevent his own suicide, and I am satisfied Mr Latimer's death would not have occurred at the time had appropriate guidelines and procedures been able to be followed." Careful not to criticise the health workers, who she says performed their roles effectively, saying the issues were caused by insufficient staffing and a lack of hospital space. Making 4 recommendations, including the government recruiting more psychiatric emergency nurses and reforms to mental health services.
We want to send out our absolute support and thoughts to the family. They deserve closure.
The government will now consider those recommendations, but says it is investing and taking action across the state.
The mental health system in general in past decades has been ill-equipped to deal with people in their time of need. We're getting better at it.
After the findings were handed down, Mr Latimer's mother, Julie, read a letter he wrote to the court, saying, "I'm trying to stay focused on my goals and I want Cassie to be proud of me. I want to live." Let down by the system he reached out to for help. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
And if you or someone you know needs help, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. A Derwent Valley man has been arrested after allegedly robbing a New Norfolk hotel earlier this week. Officers were called to the premises on Tuesday when a man allegedly took a large sum of cash and pushed past patrons who tried to intervene. A 25-year-old man faced court today charged with robbery. Anyone with information is urged to contact police. Thousands of COVID vaccine doses will begin arriving in Tasmania at the end of this month. More details have been revealed about the rollout, but the Premier has warned the vaccine will not be a silver bullet.
Turning the tide in the war on COVID.
We are preparing for what will be, without doubt, one of the biggest health logistical exercises in our country's history.
At the end of this month, Tasmania will have the Pfizer vaccine. Revealed today, the numbers of what the Commonwealth will deliver. 2,340
doses a week for the first 3 weeks.
Later increasing to more than 4,000 doses a week. The rollout will begin at the Royal Hobart Hospital, followed in March by hospitals in Launceston and Burnie. Health and border workers will be first in line for the jab, although half of initial doses will go towards aged care.
We plan to have fully vaccinated Tasmania's priority populations by early April.
GPs and Aboriginal health services will be enlisted for the fight, and a hiring blitz has begun to find more nurses for the mammoth task.
We will also do our best to ensure that there is no impact on existing health services as a result of staff being involved in the vaccination program.
As Tassie's testing numbers drop, there's a warning some cases could slip through.
Until we're testing at around about 500 to 600 people a day with symptoms, we can't be as confident as we'd like to be that we're catching the prospect of a case early enough.
Meanwhile, more COVID restrictions have been loosened. Capacity at indoor venues has increased to 75%, but border restrictions with Perth remain in place, as well as 14 sites in Melbourne. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
The Launceston City Council has unveiled an ambitious $200 million plan to transform UTAS Stadium. It's hoped the raised seating capacity and improved facilities will aid the state's pursuit of an AFL team.
The next chapter in UTAS Stadium's growth. The Launceston City Council are set to consider endorsing a draft future directions plan for the stadium. It includes a $208 million redevelopment.
What we want to see is this stadium needs to be upgraded, and this future directions plan is all about upgrading the stadium to make it fit for purpose for modern AFL games, for basketball games.
The Tasmanian AFL Task Force recommended redeveloping and expanding the stadium. These plans were made with that in mind.
We know with the AFL, with the plans they've had in the report that was done in 2019, that it said Tasmania needs a stadium of 27,500 seats.
Not only the seating numbers, but high performance facilities, indoor training facilities, the ability to be able to have flexible use of the space. So we think it ticks all of those boxes and does strengthen Tasmania's case.
Also proposed an adjoining multi-use indoor facility, potentially hosting concerts or indoor sports. The jack jumpers are on the radar.
Our view, as we've said all along, is to make basketball the number one sport here in Tasmania, and another great facility to be able to play NBL games out of will really help do that.
It would require a change in ownership model to go ahead though. The council proposing the creation of a trust funded by 3 levels of government to own and operate the stadium. The Premier praised the merits of the proposal but wouldn't commit to ownership.
If council approve it and forward it on to me, then I'll be in a position, once I've looked at the business case, to make an assessment of that.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Blueberry rust has been detected on a farm near Lilydale in northern Tasmania, resulting in its closure for the foreseeable future. Restrictions are in place on the movement of the fruit, as well as equipment, staff and visitors to contain the rust. Biosecurity Tasmania has also begun tracing investigations. Tasmanians are being urged to be on the lookout for signs of rust on homegrown plants and purchased products. The north and northwest of the state are preparing to be lashed with rain over the next 24 hours, with the Bureau of Meteorology issuing several weather warnings. Let's go live to our reporter Josh Duggan, who's in Launceston. Good evening, Josh. Now, how much rain is expected?
Kim, the Weather Bureau has forecasted 40 to 80 millimetres of rain for the next day in what they're calling potentially the biggest rainfall event of the past 5 years. Experts have predicted that there could be up to 200 millimetres in the Western Tiers and Northern Highlands, and the Bureau are particularly worried about the risk of flooding around the Mersey and Meander rivers.
People also need to be aware that the rivers could rise quite rapidly, and with wet soil we could see water across roads, and people need to take essential precautions when they're out driving.
The SES has also advised those camping and caravanning to take some preventative action this afternoon and move to higher ground. And in the south there is some rain on the way, but only about 10 to 30 millimetres, Kim.
It's hoped a new study into electric vehicle usage in Tasmania will help shape the future of our energy market. A TasNetworks trial is now underway to better understand the car's existing impact on the energy network and prepare it for the future. While there's not many electric car users in the state yet, that's expected to change in coming years.
There's going to be a slow uptake still. There's still not a big enough range of cars, and they're still too expensive for a lot of people, but hopefully that will start to change in the next 2 or 3 years.
It's the ideal time to start collecting the data from the early adopters and then shape the future based on the choices the customers are making.
TasNetworks is now looking for 22 motorists to take part in the year-long trial. Traffic safety inspectors will be out in force across the state in a blitz targeting unsafe loads and dangerous vehicles. Authorities say some drivers are not getting the message, and simple steps could save lives.
A quick stop to save lives. Authorities cracking down on unsafe vehicles and loads that aren't secure.
I'm sure a lot of them aren't aware of what's wrong with their vehicle, so that's what we're here for, road safety. With load security, I believe a lot of people think they're doing what they need to do, but we're just giving them advice at the moment on how they could do things better.
Pop-up inspection stations will appear across the state, targeting
lights, tyre condition, with load security, some mutes and all that with their stuff in the back of the tray, just giving advice on putting nets over the top, or a simple ratchet strap is all they need sometimes.
Traffic inspectors out in force in an effort to prevent road tragedies.
We've all got a responsibility to make sure our vehicle is maintained appropriately, is safe at all times, and if you're going to be carrying an extra load, like a trailer or a boat or a caravan, it's your responsibility to make sure that it's safe.
Pop-up inspection sites like this one appear to be working, with about 25 to 30% of cars being picked up as having a defect. Drivers won't necessarily be slapped with a fine. If there's an issue, they could receive a defect notice and an opportunity to fix the issue. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's doctors are calling for action on climate change, warning it poses an increasing health risk. The Australian Medical Association says mental health and bushfire-related illnesses will grow worse if nothing changes.
We've seen from prolonged bushfire smoke exposure, there's emerging evidence that women who are pregnant, for example, are suffering from preterm deliveries or lower birth weight babies.
There's an enormous amount of evidence about the trouble that's looming because of the climate, and it's going to make COVID look like a ripple in terms of the impact on all of us.
They now want the state government to do more to lower carbon emissions.
Explosive Jack has taken out the $100,000 Tasmanian Derby at Elwick Racecourse moments ago, upsetting the hot favourite Swoop Dog.
Explosive Jack takes the Derby by 3. Alloway second, Swoop Dog third.
Explosive Jack was paying $4.20 for the win. If you've dreamed of joining the Jack Jumpers, there's good news. The new team is recruiting. However, there's one small catch. You'll have to squeeze inside the new mascot outfit unveiled today. Named Jack the Jumper, it's hoped he'll drum up support for the team.
We want someone who's a bit cheeky. We want someone a bit cheeky, entertaining, acrobatic. As I've said, that's certainly not something we've got in the office at the moment, but the most important thing for us is that someone's going to have a bit of fun.
Be warned though, it does get warm inside the costume, or so I'm told. Someone eyeing a start in the Jack Jumpers on the court is new Hobart Chargers recruit Colin Sapwell. The club's latest signing has made it clear he sees the NBL one side as a pathway to the top level.
He'll be able to stretch the floor for us, so making other players better around him, and I think that's an important piece.
American AJ Harris has also signed with the Chargers, saying on social media he is super excited for the opportunity. And the release of the NBL 1 fixture has been delayed. The season is still slated to start in mid-April. Tasmania has 2 wins from 2 games in the WNCL after beating the SA Scorpions by 4 wickets in Canberra. Nicola Carey's striking form continued with figures of 3 for 26. Sasha Maloney also took 3 wickets for just 23 runs. Chasing 175 for victory, Naomi Stalenberg was just shy of a half-century. Heather Graham and Corinne Hall also performed well. Tasmania now has a 2-week break before playing Western Australia in Hobart. And 35 years ago this week, the World Series Cup came to the NTCA ground in Launceston. In tonight's Friday Flashback, Richard Hadley's New Zealand would struggle to reach India's total. With polos tucked in, the Kiwi outfit landed in Launceston, needing a win to qualify for the World Series Cup final.
It's either India or ourselves, so yes, we'll be working very, very hard to win that match to qualify for the finals.
The late Ian Young had the pitch looking tip-top.
The wicket is absolutely spot on as to how I'd like it for tomorrow.
As the visitors accustomed to an Aussie rules football, the cool climate, tracksuits required, and the NTCA nets. Before a beautiful day welcomed India to the crease, Chris Srikanth started well, pleasing the crowd with a well-timed tonk.
Srikanth breaks loose, and that's what they need to do.
But it was never easy for India, up against New Zealand's golden age of seam bowlers.
Who's LBW?
Martin Snedden, Ewan Chatfield and Hadley taking 5 between them.
Oh, and he's gone right through him. That one kept very low. Shastri was waiting for the ball to bounce a little.
The entire NTCA crowd threw its hands up in the 42nd over for the biggest 6 of the day.
There she goes, that's a beauty. The long hop over mid-wicket for 6. The little man, Chetan Sharma, got a lot of courage and fire, and that was beautifully struck.
Chasing 203 for victory, brothers Jeff and Martin Crowe fell cheaply, Roger Binney with a blinder.
Great reflex catch, just gets the fingers underneath it, throws it in the air.
Superb bowling kept the wickets tumbling. Entertainment galore for the jam-packed audience. They were having the time of their life as India cruised to victory. Skipper Kapil Dev enjoying the spoils.
In our team, we don't depend on one player.
We depend on everybody, and that's the best part in our team.
With the teams long gone, the task of cleaning up after 10,000 people began. A rattling reminder of cricket's biggest names being at the NTCA ground.
Good evening. 25 across Hobart and Launceston today, at Devonport 23 and 20 at Burnie. 28 was the state's top at Bushy Park, 22 across Smithton and Lowhead, and Lyweenie 17. On the close-up shows extensive thick cloud over Tasmania, bringing rain and thunderstorms. Further out, cloud associated with a tropical low is off the west coast of WA, with cloud extending across central Australia. Tomorrow the low will pass to the south of Tasmania with a front crossing early. North-easterly winds tomorrow 20 to 30 knots in the east, swells up to 2.5 metres in the west and south and up to 2 metres in the north. On to the warnings, and a severe weather warning is current for northern and eastern parts of Tasmania, a gale warning for eastern coastal waters, a strong wind warning for northern coastal waters, for southern waters from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point, and for southeast inshore waters. A moderate flood warning is current for the Mersey River, minor flood warnings for the North Esk, South Esk, Macquarie River and the Meander River. A flood watch is current for the northwest, north and northeast river catchments. A road weather alert is current for the northwest, central north, northeast, Midlands and east coast for flooded roads, and a warning to sheep graziers is current for the northwest, central north and Midland forecast districts. Tomorrow's forecast now: Hobart, rain easing 25 at Maydena, Oatlands 24. In the north, possible storm and heavy rainfalls across Launceston and Lyweenie, Devonport 21. Burnie tomorrow, early storm and showers. Strawn 22-19 at Marrawar. 26 across Swansea and Orford and St Helens, possible early storm with heavy rainfalls. The UV forecast is very high across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast: Sunday, showers about the west, south and the northeast, fine elsewhere. Monday, showers across the west, far south and the northeast. And Tuesday, mostly fine with northeast to southeasterly winds. Capital cities, rain developing in Perth tomorrow. Melbourne, partly cloudy and 27 in Sydney. And currently Hobart 23 and heavy rain across Launceston and Devonport. That's all for weather tonight, Kim.
Hey, thank you very much, Jackie, and that is all we have time for tonight. Tom will be with you over the weekend. For now, on behalf of the entire team, good night.